meet Paula. I always forget. I have a hard time pronouncing it.
It's Lukats.
Okay. Paula Lukats. She works at Just Foods, which is a local organization that works with local neighborhoods, connecting them with New York State farmers, and they do a lot of community outreach, education, working with CSAs. And she's been working there for 6 years, and she works with us on our CSA here that we host. So we're really excited to have her here. And the way it's going to structure, she's going to speak for about 15 minutes, and then we'll have an open discussion on the topics and intentions raised. And generally speaking, we're trying to think about what are the links between income, poverty, access to like healthy food, and then health outcomes. So that's the kind of broad topic that we have. So I'm going to hand it over to Paula, and we just want to thank her again for coming.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for the invitation to come. It's really nice to be here and to talk with you all. I'm going to talk a little bit, but I'm really looking forward to kind of the conversation part of things, and hearing from you a little bit about your experience, and I might ask a few questions as we talk. Thank you. So, on the handout that Sarah prepared, there's a lot of really great information just about, kind of a overview of the food system, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So first of all, just to tell you a little bit about Just Food and me. So we're a nonprofit organization here in the city, and our goal is really to make fresh, locally grown food available to people all over the city by connecting them with farmers and helping them grow their own food, and looking at ways that we can kind of improve the food system and how people get their food. So, thinking about eating healthy, it can be really difficult for a number of reasons. And as a country, we don't do such a good job of it. One of the statistics I found was that there are over 72 million people in the U.S. who are obese. And as people probably know, there's a lot of connection with obesity and health problems, diabetes, heart problems, cancer. There are a lot of things that are related to being obese. Actually, I have this really cool graphic that I'll pass around, but it just kind of shows in 1990 the rates of obesity in the country. So the white are lower rates, and the darker the colors get, the more the percentage of folks who would be considered obese are. And then it moves to 1998, and this one is 2007. So they actually, so watch the slide. So as it goes year to year, it's really fascinating to watch it. And then they had to add colors, and they started with just the blues, and then they had to add other colors in. So it's something that is kind of a increasing issue, and that's true, as you can see, countrywide, nationwide, and also kind of sadly parallel here in New York City. And the research that they've done is that there really is a parallel between the income level in a neighborhood and the chance that a person will be obese. So the lower the average income level in a neighborhood, the higher the rate of obesity tends to be, which is really frustrating, that there is that correlation. Are people familiar with the term food desert? Mm-hmm. What do you think of when you think of a food desert?
No supermarkets.
I'm sorry?
No supermarkets.
No supermarkets.
Mm-hmm. No fresh food.
No fresh food. Yep. Other things that people think of? I think people usually think of food deserts as places where people either can't get access to good food, or they can't afford the food that's there, or the quality isn't very good. There's a lot of different kind of elements to it. And I think those are kind of three things to think about when we think about having access to food. One is physical access, like is there food in your area to buy at all? There's some neighborhoods where there just isn't a grocery store. Mm-hmm. The other is, can people afford it? Is there financial access? So there might be food, but if you can't afford it, does it do you any good? And then the third piece is kind of the knowledge that people need to be able to get the food that's there. You have to know that it's there. You have to know that you can afford it, and you have to kind of know what to do with it once you've got it.
That's a good question.
You know, so there's all sorts of different levels.
How to cook it, right?
Exactly. That's a big piece, is knowing how to cook
Especially
healthy
men.
food.
Men don't know how to cook.
You know what? I think lots of us don't know how to cook. I think it's kind of a lost art in a lot of ways. What do you all think is the hardest thing about eating healthy? What do you find the hardest thing about eating healthy?
Our preparation choices here.
Yeah.
Our refrigeration and our cook stove
So
thing is very limited.
Tiny kitchens.
And it's tiny, it's awkward to cook anything that needs more than 2 pans.
Yep.
So you end up microwaving the hell out of everything.
Yeah. So limited ability to cook.
Cost.
Mm-hmm.
Cost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, healthy food is not tasty because they have to put salt, sugar, cooking oil, and that's how I cook without them. But I manage to eat a little bit, but not tasty. We try to cook.
Well, I would hope that we could change that one. I don't know that we can do much about the kitchen size. Cost, hopefully, there's some other options, and definitely tastiness. I think there's things you can do.
Fresh food, fruits are sweet and good to eat.
Yep.
And fruit juice. Beyond that, every food, when you cook, it won't be tasty unless... But I used to eat in that way a little bit, but if I get enough food, I eat because I know it's tasty because I put salt and everything,
I think it also depends on what we think of as healthy food. Even making small changes can make a big difference in the way that you feel and in your health. So it doesn't have to be giving up salt completely or giving up, butter completely, or it can be, total small changes. Working more fruits and vegetables into your diet can make a big difference. Eating freshly produced food rather than like fast food or those kind of things can make a big difference. So it doesn't have to be, gigantic changes. You don't have to change completely the way that you eat. So I'm going to talk about those three kind of things for a second. So actually having access to food, having it be affordable, and then kind of the underlying information that you need to be able to use all of that. Does anybody know, so again, another study was saying that in some neighborhoods, particularly ones that are considered food deserts, for every grocery store, there are 5 fast food restaurants. And that's it's so much easier to do the fast food option, particularly if you have to go 4 more blocks even to get to the grocery store. That can be, a challenge. If you have medical issues, just walking those 4 blocks can be really hard. Walking back with your groceries can be really hard. So there are a lot of those physical...
Even the supermarkets they are now upscale now.
Right.
Not INP became food emporium.
Right.
There's no more cheap, like key food. They're out of Manhattan.
Yeah, that can be, and that's something that I think is really important to think about with New York City, is that neighborhoods are so different. It's a big city, and all of the neighborhoods are really different and have different challenges for people. And I think that's which is something I think is important to make sure that people who are making decisions about food and working on trying to get food to be more accessible think about. It's not just a place that might technically be considered a food desert, because there might be grocery stores, but again, if you can't afford the food that's in them, that doesn't actually make it accessible to people. So it's not just whether there is or isn't physical access. There's that. There are neighborhoods that don't have grocery stores at all, so that's a good step, is to find ways of getting more food into the community so people don't have to take a bus to get to a grocery store. But even once there is access, or if there is, the physical food in the location, everybody in the community being able to access that is an important thing. So what are some ways that you can get food into a community? So you're talking about grocery stores. That's one way. What are other ways?
Well, obviously here we know about CSAs.
So CSA is a great way. Is everybody familiar with the CSA and how it works?
I have CSA in this building.
I know. I helped get it started many, many years ago. It was very exciting. This is actually the first CSA that I belonged to this year. I worked in the neighborhood, so I would come after work and pick up my vegetables.
The farmer's market.
Farmer's market.
From here, 14th Street.
Yep.
Right.
which is the closest farmer's market for you guys here.
Yes.
Union Square.
Union Square. Yep. So, we can think about grocery stores, but there are also other ways. What's another way that you guys can get food? And I think you do it here as well,
Catching food.
or having good food to eat. I think that you guys do some of this here. You can grow your own. Did you
We
guys
do
have
that here
a self
too.
garden? I thought so.
Yeah.
We have a herb garden.
So that's a big way that you can do it, is being able to, find a little space, even here in the city, to grow your own food. There are actually a surprising number of urban farms. One of Just Food's programs is our City Farms program.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who didn't get a bookmark, you can certainly grab one. I'll leave some, but it lists all our programs on the back, and the City Farms one is the one that is really helps people who are in the city who know lots about growing food to share that with other people and teach other people how to do it. So whether it's on your windowsill, or whether you have, a rooftop that you have access to, or community gardens, or, a friend's space, any place, there's all sorts of people growing all sorts, in your window frame, like all sorts of ways that you can grow food.
Even the White House they have.
Exactly, the White House lawn, even there now, that they're growing food. You don't need a whole lot of space, and you can grow quite a bit of food. So, and there's no better way to have control of your own food than to be able to grow it yourself. Do you guys know that you can actually use your food stamps to buy seeds? Actually, you're allowed to use food stamps to buy seeds so that you can grow your own food, which I think is really exciting, and just kind of gives you another option. We do a lot of workshops on like container gardening and growing your own food and seed starting. So you definitely should kind of keep your eye on that, and maybe if you're interested in growing your own food, you could go to one of our workshops. They're all over the city. So there are lots of different options to kind of getting food in the city. And New York City actually has quite a few initiatives that they've started to kind of help that piece of things, to get more food. This goes down that way. Some of it this way. And this is just kind of a little timeline for different things that that have been put in place to help things get better in terms of access. So one is, this one's kind of more a financial one, is the Health Bucks program, which actually Joe was talking about earlier. And so this is the one where in some neighborhoods, for every $2, so every $5 you spend in food stamps, you get $2 extra at farmers markets. So when you're spending your food stamp dollars at farmers markets, you get a little extra as an incentive. Unfortunately, as I was saying, there's not unlimited funding for it, so they kind of had to pick the neighborhoods where there's very, very little food access and people really, really aren't getting food to kind of focus on. Hopefully, eventually, someday it'll be citywide, so that anybody who's using food stamps...
When I asked them, it never happened to me.
I know, I'm hoping someday, because it's a really popular program and it really works well.
I mean, the logic is wrong when they say the logic. Neighborhood may be a good popular, but people who have food stamp are poor, they're food stamp.
I know. I think a little bit is also just management of the program. It's hard to do it all over the city, but hopefully someday. And then the Healthy Bodegas initiative, just trying to get smaller corner stores to be able to have better healthy food in them. The Green Carts program is another one, and again, that's in neighborhoods where there is really, really no grocery stores, rather than, because it takes a lot to start a grocery store. You have to have a lot of space, takes a lot of money. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. So, but there are all those vegetable carts around, except they're only kind of in higher income neighborhoods. There aren't so many in lower income neighborhoods. So this is an initiative to encourage folks who want to do those carts to put them in neighborhoods where there really aren't any other ones. And then the Fresh initiative, which started in 2009, is kind of a incentive for people to start grocery store businesses in lower income neighborhoods. So kind of that grocery store piece, trying to get that to be better. And then there's all sorts of other stuff going on. The other stuff in the timeline is a lot of like city policy stuff that's been happening, because happily our politicians are finally paying attention to food, which is great. Have people heard of Plan YC? It's kind of New York City's big, it's focused on all sorts of different things, but their kind of plan 2030, it was this kind of sustainability plan for the city. But the first one they didn't talk about food at all. And I was like, how can you leave food out completely of a conversation about the city? So they redid it when did they redo it? I think it was 2010 they redid it, and added, actually it was this year, they finally finished it and added in food, which is really exciting. So some of those are physical access things, and some of those are those financial ones. So that's kind of the flip side. We were saying, like, it doesn't really matter if you have grocery stores. If they can't afford the food that's in them, it doesn't do you much good. So really, and that's true of CSAs and farmers markets and all of those things. So there has been a really big initiative to increase food stamp use for fruits and vegetables at all those places. So I actually did bring the green market map. There are lots of other farmers markets in the city, but these are probably the ones that are closest to you and the ones people know the best. And all of the ones that have pink dots accept food stamps. So it's not quite all of them yet, but they're doing really good. And there's a lot of incentives tied to that and a lot of ways to encourage people to do that, so which is great. And then, as you guys know, your CSA accepts food stamps and has a lot of flexibility to try to make it as affordable as possible. And there's something else I was going to mention. The WIC fruit and veggie vouchers. That's also something that probably not so applicable to folks in the building, but for moms who are eligible for WIC benefits, it's women, infants, and children, so people with little kids who are pregnant, they now get like a special voucher that they can use just for fruits and veggies, so to really encourage people to eat more produce. There's also FMNP and senior market programs, and they're kind of a coupon program for seniors and, again, WIC moms you can only use them at farmers markets. So there's lots of different things, the health books program, there are lots of different ways that people are trying to make it easier for people to be able to afford fresh produce, and try to make that part easier.
Could you explain that senior program a little bit?
Sure. It's called Senior. It's FMNP, Farmers Market Nutrition Program, and there's a WIC version and a senior version. And it's not very much money for the season. It's only about $15 per person, and usually you can get them through senior citizen programs, like senior centers, those kind of places usually will get a stash of them, usually early to midsummer they'll get
people
them.
that don't go to a senior program.
There's other ways. I can look it up for you and send you guys some information that they can share to see what the eligibility is and where you can get them. It's not a ton of money, but it helps a little bit.
That's $15 for the whole season, or $15 a month?
$15 for the whole season.
The whole season.
It's something like that. It might be a little more, but it's not very much. But it's better than nothing. It's a little something.
What are the initials on that? To look it up on the English language?
Farmers Market Nutrition Program. N, Nutrition, Program, P. Yep.
Probably could find the data right online.
Yeah.
Many of us that live here are seniors, so that's why.
Yeah, no, it was stuck in your eye, really great.
I thought she was
There you go.
Thank you.
Could I have a cup?
Oh, I have one. So then kind of the last piece is that knowledge part.
Thank you.
Yeah. How many of you guys cook at least one meal a day at home? Most people? Nice. Especially with not very big kitchens.
You can do wonderful stuff with just one pot and one burner.
Exactly. I think that's part of it, is just helping people think that it doesn't have to be complicated or fancy. Keeping it simple and delicious and hopefully tasty. Hopefully there are ways to, and certainly, one would hope the farmers market and CSA program, the vegetables already taste better because they haven't been.
More than we can eat.
Good. That's good. Does anybody know how far food usually travels from the farm to your plate, not CSA-wise, but like grocery
Or
store-wise.
maybe 1,000 miles.
1,500 miles.
1,500 miles. That's
I'm almost right.
Am I
about
right?
that. Yeah, pretty close.
That's
Which
the
is far.
average? That's
Yeah,
the average?
that's the
Mhm.
average, which is pretty far, and that takes a while. You know, and it goes from the farm to a packing plant,
Depot,
to a
yeah.
warehouse, on a truck, to a distribution center, to your grocery store.
Middle brokers.
All those middle
brokers
people.
in the middle.
Exactly, all those middle people.
Vegetable one.
Brokers.
And so with all that time and distance, you know, stuff doesn't always taste so hot. You know, anybody who's bought a tomato in the middle of the winter, it might look red and it kind of looks like a tomato, but it doesn't taste anything like we know a tomato can actually taste like. So hopefully being able to use farmers markets and CSAs can just help you start with good tasting stuff, which helps a lot. And then, you know, kind of that happy medium of eating healthy, but maybe not, you know, not meaning that you can't use any salt or you can't use any butter. I mean, each person's own health limitations are gonna, you know, kick in, but for the most part, you know, just eating the fruits and vegetables is a really big step up. So it doesn't have to be terribly complicated. Do you guys do anything in the building to kind of encourage people to cook for themselves? Do you do any like cooking classes or?
We have
Yeah.
once a month cooking class, and then there's ECS that holds a cooking workshop
Nice.
once a month as well, right?
We have demonstration, cooking demonstration once a month from only when the CSA is there.
CSA? Great.
And we have cooking class. Recently, cooking class is getting popular. Before that, they don't know how to cook. They cooking class anyway.
Yeah, I think kind of anybody can share their knowledge of how to cook
that's
and their
what they
own
do now.
recipes, but you know, you do want someone who kind of knows what they're doing. Yeah. So just knowing how to cook, knowing where the healthy food is, having things like the farmer's market map where you can kind of see where you can go to use your food stamps, making sure people know about the CSAs that are in the city, is a big step towards, you know, addressing a lot of these issues. I want to talk just a little bit about other things that you can do to help change things, change the way. I think one of the most important things is what we've been talking about, is changing the way you eat. You're a consumer. You have a lot of power by just using the dollars that you have to buy food and to ask questions of, you know, if you're at a farmer's market and they don't accept food stamps, talk to them about it. Tell them that you would, you know, shop there more if they did. If you're at a grocery store and their produce is really in bad condition, you know, talk to somebody about it. Just kind of using your food dollars and your voice to let people know. And to share what you know with other people.
Okay, Occupy Wall Street.
Well, I think you guys are going to talk about that next month. So there's definitely food people there. Again, getting just comfortable with cooking and sharing what you know about cooking with other people, sharing recipes that you find for your CSA food, or kind of sharing all of that with, I mean, there are lots of people in the building. You know, if everybody ate a little bit better, that could be a huge change. And then there is some like advocacy and political stuff that you can be doing. We're not gonna talk about all of these too much, but I just wanted to share some resources that we have on doing advocacy. And this is the Food NYC, which is the Manhattan Borough President's kind of food plan. As you can see on this one, they talk about urban agriculture, so growing your own stuff, improving food production in the region, so supporting farmers who are actually growing food to help them get it.
Did you get one of these? Okay.
Creating new markets, trying to, you know, get there to be places where people can come, helping the city to buy better food for the things that they run. Doing education, teaching kids and adults about healthy eating and nutrition and cooking, so that all the stuff that we've been talking about happens with kids and adults. Looking at food waste, which we're not even going to talk about, but what happens with, you know, leftover stuff.
I don't waste any food.
Good for you.
I eat all I cook.
Good for you. because that's a big
I think
thing.
it's a shame.
Yeah.
It's really
That's a lot.